Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Hi, this is Gracie Howes with Pilma. Let's hit pause for just a second on this episode because I have to tell you about this event that every forward-thinking PI firm should have on their calendar this January. It's the AI for PI Expo in Orlando, Florida, January 15th through 17th. This is the very first conference of its kind dedicated entirely to showing personal injury firms how to harness AI to save time, cut costs, and grow faster. You'll get hands-on demos, practical training, and access to the best AI solutions built for law firms. Reserve your spot now at pilma.org/AI for PI Expo via the link in the show notes.
Hey, it's Jenna, Membership Growth Advisor with Pilma. If you're serious about growing your law firm this year, don't miss your chance to book a free law firm growth strategy session with me. We'll break down what's holding you back, identify the biggest opportunities in your firm, and map out the next steps to accelerate your growth. No pressure, just real strategy and direction tailored to you. Click the link in the show notes to schedule your free session.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the honor and the pleasure, Eric Sanchez with Maestro Partners. Hey, Eric.
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great,
Good.
Glad to have you on the show. Glad to have you on the podcast. And we were talking about before we got on air, and I think we want to talk about AI and workflows. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna let you lead it off.
Yeah, I've been seeing, a lot of our clients, of course, most everybody has touched AI in some capacity. It's really pretty fascinating to us. As you know, in a former life, I founded and exited from an intake and case management software company. And I remember the big pain point then was trying to get firms to understand that the cloud was better than on premises. And it was this major lift, and people didn't want to didn't want to do it. It reminded me of the old word perfect versus word, debate. It's like, it seems like every couple of years this type of thing happens. AI stands in stark contrast to that. Firms are running to AI, and what that's done, it's been a kind of a boon for some of the AI companies, but it's actually come with some unintended inefficiencies as well, because they go and grab these products and they don't really think through how to leverage these technologies in a way that allows them to really maximize their utility and efficiency. So it may be something like, oh, well, we're going to use this to do our medical chronologies. And that's great. And that's an obvious use case for it. But you can do so much more. And we're having an increasing an amount of conversations with principals where the principals are really looking for value beyond just increasing the case value or something like that. They really want to start to see kind of a headcount reduction, and you keep your superstars, you enable your superstars, but kind of those hanger-ons, those lesser skilled employees, they could really want to see a diminishment of that, and they're not seeing in the rapidity that they'd like, and it really comes down to workflows.
Okay. So why do you think, why do you say workflows?
Yeah, so you can have an AI that, there's, when we say AI, you know this as well as anybody, you study AI, I wish everybody did. So you are what I would call an educated consumer. But a lot of other folks out there aren't. And so they just assume an AI is an AI is an AI. Well, you've got something like a speed AI, you've got something like a Supio AI, you've got something like foundation AI, and they all do different things. It's no different than like having a tool chest and you need a wrench versus a screwdriver versus a hammer. And if you don't even understand that at a basic standpoint, you can't possibly understand how to translate the existing workflows to another. So, for example, if your workflow is, well, I've got a mail guy goes and opens my mail, sorts my mail, and has to go look up and route these things, there's an AI solution for that now. And it may be that you don't even need that role anymore, or that role has changed and it can do other things, bring other utility and benefits to the firm other than just being a simple mail clerk. That's just one small example.
Yeah. So like I was thinking, and I'm not even like that much knowledge of what you have of all this stuff, but I was just thinking like a law firm owner, and I'm thinking, if I was running a law firm today, I think I'd try to take certain sections and automate it either with AI or whatever, but like just start at the beginning. I mean, wherever you want to, but like just opening a file. I mean, once you do the intake, get that done, have an AI agent or whatever out there, however you take AI or automation or both, and get it where they can go look up who the insurance company is, open up the file, send a rep letter, send out the medical requests for the doctors, the protection letters and all this kind of stuff. I mean, that would be, is that what you're talking about when you're talking about workflow, like one section of the workflow, and then get that honed in and then go to the next step, which might be one.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it doesn't have to even be automation, it can be enhancement. And that is an important distinction that needs to be made. The principals are fighting fear within their organization. I think that we're now seeing a little bit more comfort at the attorney level, where I think attorneys are recognizing, yeah, the AI can spit out, a couple paragraphs about contributory negligence. They can spit out some things about last clear chance, but leveraging those things into a strategic position to advance your client's matter in court, that's the AI is not there yet. And I think a lot of attorneys are comfortable now with that. The paralegals, I think, are getting a lot more concerned, and perhaps rightly so. If you have an underperforming paralegal and you look at the way that agentic AI is evolving, you're going to start to see that we already are seeing the intake products. I mean, you get pitched these things as much as I do, Ken. You see all these things, and the quality has just gone up just really kind of exponentially. I mean, a year ago, I think I would tell clients run, don't, don't walk, run from these AI agents that are being intaken now. There's pretty significant improvements on that, even from an empathetic standpoint. They're mimicking human idiosyncrasies, keyboard clicks, stuttering, ums and ahs. They sound really, really human. And I wouldn't say that the tech is 100% there, but I would say this to your audience, Ken, I don't know why and how we got to this point where we're holding AI to the standard of perfection and we don't hold our staff to a standard of perfection. I can't tell you how many law firms I've been in. I've never seen an intakes department with 100% perfect intake people. And so if once that starts to click with these firms, then they start to realize, okay, well, maybe we can test some things, and then with the recognition that these technologies are evolving just super fast. I mean, in hardware, there's something called Moore's Law, which essentially said the processing speed doubles every 2 years. Well, in AI, it's like every 6 months, perhaps even less than that, that the technology is evolving. So we've not seen, I mean, I've heard some technologists refer to this as kind of the new industrial revolution. And I initially thought that was hyperbolic, but I no longer think so.
Yeah, I was listening to one a test on this thing called keto. I was impressed. I really was.
Yeah.
And I've listened to some other ones that I was not as impressed with, but this one, like they had empathy, and I actually act like I was a test, act like I was a potential new client. I guess I was a lead, and I really gave it a hard time, and it handled it. And I finally said, I'm not doing anything until I talk to a lawyer, and it said, absolutely, let me transfer you now. What I'm saying is, and I raise some objections, and they handled them pretty good, I thought. I mean, what I'm saying is, it's come a long ways, baby. But I think
Yeah, no,
that's the thing. I think that's the thing, and I think sometimes, and that's why that's why we're doing this AI for PI, and you're going to be one of the keynote speakers. Is that I think lawyers don't know where to start, and I think they think you just going to throw some money at it and it's going to work, and I don't think they know. I don't even know if I know, to be honest with you. Where do you start? Like I thought about for Pilma, I was doing it this morning. I'm sitting here mapping out next year, and I'm thinking I want to leverage AI, but I don't want to leverage AI just for the sake of leveraging AI. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I totally know what you're saying.
I want to be strategic about it, and where can I use it to give me the biggest bang? And instead of trying to do everything at one time, let's just try to work on one thing like a quarter, or maybe we only do two things next year, or maybe we do three. I don't know. But the deal is, I was thinking about it. I don't know that this is that hard, but it probably can be done maybe without AI. But we've got such a plethora of information in our resources, like past roundtables, marketing, management, intake, all the magazine articles, all the webinars. on all these different subjects, because running a law firm, there's so many different things, hiring, firing, numbers, what's the KPIs, this, intake,
Right.
Marketing, what works here, what works this, how to, grassroots, whatever. But have it where when they go in, instead of having to do a lot of search, you say, I'm having a problem with this. What have you got that can help me? And it just pulls up everything right then, makes it very, I call it user friendly.
Yeah. And so this is a great use case. So for example, the kind of big dog in the space on the generative AI platforms is like ChatGPT, right? Everybody's using ChatGPT. Personally, I prefer to use Google's Gemini. I will also use ChatGPT and Anthropic, but as far as using AI as a thought partner, I prefer Gemini. And that's what I use that phrase intentionally, a thought partner. And I know you do. You pass on that book is escaping me. The title of it is escaping me. But the book that you passed on about using AI as a thought leader.
AI-driven leadership.
I was talking with attorney Eric Chafin, and we were just kind of geeking out about how much that has really amplified our own thinking and our own vision by simply being able to have somebody give, this AI give a perspective that's different. Now, to the point that you were raising specifically, I would liken that to, say, a law firm that needs a go-by library or something like that. So, and by the way, I'm not getting a toaster from Google or stock options, I wish, but Google has something called a notebook. And essentially, you can upload documents into your notebook, and it creates a closed circuit where the generative AI pings just that content, and you can query that content, and it's just that. So you could create a PILMA repository where people were just asking those questions against the PILMA information, and they get that. One of the basic things I think that people need to understand is the difference between an open circuit and a closed circuit. One of the things that we're seeing, and I think Ken, you and I have had conversations in the past about the difference between these specialist AIs, these PI focused AIs, and say like an Anthropic or a GPT or Gemini. And the biggest difference is an open circuit versus a closed circuit. You have a little bit more comfort when your client's information isn't going out anywhere. That's kind of the biggest, boldest thing. But I just read an article in the New York Times where a senior scientist data scientist at OpenAI and a senior scientist at Google Gemini left, and they started Google DeepThink rather. They started their own AI startup because what they're seeing is that generative AI is reaching the apex point of all of the knowledge in the internet. And now it's starting to get stymied because it has absorbed that information and it needs new information to come in to evolve it. So these guys have set out and they're doing chemical experiments, they're doing physical science experiments, they're feeding that information into the AI to enhance the AI. Why am I telling your audience this? That is exactly the reason why you have a focused AI for legal, or you have a focused AI for medical, or you have a focus. Think about it as a lawyer, and no disrespect to any general practitioners out there that are listening to this, but are they going to understand stacking in North Carolina like someone who does PI all the time every day? Maybe not, And so sometimes these specialist things are important. And then when you think about your firms, one of the mistakes that I see firms making, they said, oh, well, the Acme firm, they're using, XAI. I want to use XAI because I want to be like the Acme firm, even though their workflows, their personalities, their tech adoption interior is completely the opposite of that firm. And so you really need to you have your own due diligence and know who you are as a law firm before you can even get to the point of selecting the right tool.
Makes sense. So but getting back to these workflows, how would you approach it though? Like if you're a lawyer and you're thinking about, okay, I want to use AI, but I don't know where to start,
Yeah. Yeah, I would do a good old fashioned pain point analysis. Like I would ask your rank and file, not you as a principal, because what we're seeing, and this, like the principals aren't in the weeds and they don't understand the detail. Like they may not, they know that the paralegals, the legal assistants hate balance checks, but they don't really understand why do they hate balance checks. They hate opening claims. Well, why do they hate opening up claims? So let's look at claims as an example. So I have to sit on the phone. I'm a paralegal. I have to sit on the phone. I have to wait for the carrier to get up with me. It could take 30 minutes or something. And some of the best performing paralegals are multitasking, right? They've got another matter up on another screen and they're doing that while they're sitting on hold. I've never met a paralegal that said, I really enjoy opening up claims. I've never met one, but It's just a part of the job. You have to do it. And so that's where agentic AI is going to come to the fore. You're going to start to see all of these platforms do things more and more dealing with the pain points within law firms and addressing them. So imagine you have an agent that goes out and calls the carrier, gets that information from the carrier, has the same kind of empathy and the same kind of emotive response about the intake platforms that we just talked about. They're getting that information. It's plugged into your case management platform, and boom, it's done. You've taken that pain point away. Why is that important? If you start with pain points, your staff will embrace AI instead of fearing AI. So you start where your problems are, and your problems may not be the same as the Acme law firm. And so you really need to understand that. Maybe you're a niche or a boutique litigation firm. Your pain points are going to be totally different than a high volume firm that's doing soft tissue cases. So first step, understand your pain points. Second step, I'd be at PILMA. I'd be at these conferences where you're learning about these things. You're talking with your colleagues. If you're not in a mastermind group, you're at a real disadvantage. You've always been at a disadvantage if you haven't been in a mastermind group, but there's so much technology out there. I mean, it's the best way to get that current information.
And when you say agentic or agents, a lot of our listeners might not know I kind of do know what you're talking about because I've been reading a lot about this. But what do you be? I mean, what are our agents, and how do you build one? I mean, who builds them? Who makes them?
So a couple of things. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. So agentic AI is a fancy word for it's doing a task. And then when the AI is doing a task, it can be something as simple as summarize the email in my inbox. Copilot does that right now with 365. You can have it generate a complete summary of your stuff. Personally, I don't like that because I don't like the way that it's summarizing it and omits some things that I think are material to the email. But it's just that's me, that's my style, And so you just have to know your style. But within AI, there's subsets of features that enhance the agent. So if the agent is doing something like going to your email and summarizing it, it doesn't need anything like natural language processing. If, however, your agent is an intake agent, it needs to have natural language processing. It needs to be able to understand the human spoken word, process it, and understand the appropriate response. So it's a totally different level. So agentic AI is very broad. I mean, you could do something behind the scenes. You can have an agent set up to say, hey, if you give it access, go to my case management software, show me my cases that I signed last week. You can even start to look for patterns. I mean, there's a whole world that firms are not touching on AI.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because right now, all you're seeing everybody talking about doing the summaries, and you got these companies, and they do the summaries, they do the demands, da da da. But the way I understand it, and I want you to, that's one, I'm glad you're here because I get to ask you a lot of questions that I've been having in my back of my head. Is like you got these agents, like one of them can just, and you kind of said it, but I'm gonna dumb it down for people like me that are not techies. It can do one task, and they call that a bot, like a chat.
Yeah, sure.
But then, like, if it's got to do like opening a claim, it's got to be able to contact the insurance company. It's got to be able to take this and do 3 or 4 tasks and work all these tasks together to come out, And then that's
right.
something different. Then I don't know what you call it. I guess you just call it agent, AI agent.
It's all under the rubric of agentic AI.
Yeah, the one that just does one task, that's a hell of a lot easier to create, but it's also it's not going to get you as much freedom or save you as much time. I would.
Yeah. So yesterday I was building. It was actually the day before yesterday. I was building an agent myself personally.
Really?
I spent 6 effing hours trying to get the result that I wanted. I didn't think it was actually that complex. And so I actually have Copilot up, I have Gemini up. I'm working on building this agent. I'm going back and forth. And finally I start cursing at Gemini. Worthless. It's just very frustrating. And I guess what I'm telling people is, the tech's not there, but it would be a mistake to throw it away and say it's not going to be there because it's improving. The very next day, I slept on it. I actually used Copilot because it was more alive. It was a Microsoft agent I was trying to build, and I had it done in 15 minutes the next day. But the AI is only going to be as good as that prompt. And so if you can figure out what you want your agent to do and you can dumb it down, You might even want to be able to do it in steps. I think you put me on, Ken, to Lindy AI. So I use Lindy AI to build agents that goes out and it gets me, it reads Wharton every day and it brings me back all the articles from Wharton or the Stanford School of Business. I've already curated. It took me a while to get it right, but it's bringing me exactly the information that I want. It's scouring all of those stories so that, I discipline myself. Like I think everybody who's kind of a student of anything, you want to read, read, read. I personally like to consume these smaller articles because I think I get a little bit more information, a broad spectrum, and then that allows me to focus on it. So I have found that, if I want to know what's going on with a competitor or a particular field in I used to set up Google alerts. Now I set up agents, and the agents just bring me that stuff back.
Yeah. And I think I don't even think lawyers realize that this is possible. Maybe they do, maybe
Yeah.
some do, but I mean, I didn't about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. So how do you like that, Lindy? I think it's Lindy.ai or whatever. I mean,
Yeah. So
I hadn't used it. I just heard about it and I figured you would.
yeah, I use it daily. I have a full subscription to it. It's good enough that I put money on it. I mean, I'll tell you that. It saves me a ton of time scouring things. I like that it is broader and more focused. So, like, for example, if I set up a Google alert and said, tell me about AI in personal injury, the Google alert's going to go and it's going to pull 6 articles from the internet. And it may or may not source things from Wharton or the Harvard Business Review or Stanford. And so the agent, I'm allowed to direct that traffic. I still do use a Google alert because I'm a belts and suspenders guy, but is absolutely been, I mean, really helpful to me. I would think that if any of your firms wanted to keep an eye on a particular competitor, there are softwares out there that do it, but an agent would be perfect for that. Go and scrub a website, show me what's going on with this person, what's the latest mass tort, that kind of stuff. That technology's out there. It's exciting times for sure.
I like what you're saying about going to the pain points. And so would you do like a committee or like say get like your best 1 or 2 paralegals or your 1 or 2 best or your marketing people and say, okay, give me what you really hate doing and what takes up like you think I guess repetitive that takes up your time that you're really not getting to leverage your talents.
I,
Take this off of you, you could get more done.
right. I think that there's a couple ways to do it. So depending on the size of your firm, that's what would guide my advice. So if you had a large firm, yeah, 100+ person firm, then yeah, you go with the committee approach. I actually don't like the approach of putting my best people on committees. I like having kind of my worst and best people on a committee. I want to
Really?
really understand what is it that is like if I have a bad person, and by bad I mean they're not performing the way that I want them to perform. I think getting them in a small group like that and getting in between their ears and hearing what they have to say about the process informs me on how well they understand the process. Do I have a cognitive issue with them? Is it a training issue? Like there's a lot of benefits to that. And it could be that there's a task that's being done that's so difficult for a new person to come on board. I remember back in the old days when the intakes were done, where you needed somebody to review the intake to determine whether or not you wanted to take that. It took years to get somebody that really had the knowledge that the principal or an experienced attorney would have. Well, that's a difficult thing. Does that mean they don't have the cognitive ability? No, it may be a training. It might need some time. But the other thing that it does is it just gets those pain points up. The experienced paralegals will know, well, that pain point was addressed by this process or this procedure. But there's still a level of pain point that is just terrible no matter what our process and procedure is. And that's where we need to bring in technology to leverage it. I would do the same exercise with attorneys. I would not mix the two. The world of the paraprofessional and the world of attorney is vastly different. The mistake that I see law firms make when they're buying a intake case management software, or even AI, is they only focus on the top. The principal's making the decision, the senior attorneys are making the decision, but they're not getting input from the associate level. They're not getting input from the paraprofessional level. And that is where you're going to see the most value is getting those people enhanced and efficient.
I like the idea too. They got more buy-in if they're part of the process of choosing it too.
I read a great book about change management a number of years ago. And it said, it started with the premise like everybody hates change. And it's not really true. It's not true that everybody hates change. I'll give you an example. Ken, if I gave you a lottery ticket and you won $1 billion, your life will have changed. I bet you would like that. I bet it would not be a negative thing. I bet it would be a happy day for you. Why? Because the change had direct benefit to you and you understood the direct benefit and you embraced the benefit. We don't do that in law firms. We make a change. We do not communicate the why of the change. We do not get buy-in. And as a result, it fails. If I'm already predisposed to fear technology, that this technology is going to take my job, it's going to fail at the get-go. So that's why I want to embrace that pain point, show the benefit to the paraprofessional. Paraprofessional embraces that, and then they start to think, how can I make my other tasks easier? So it may not
Yeah.
even be a pain point. It just may be making something that's okay, great.
I do like change because I think you got to change and adapt to the times and things.
Yeah.
One thing I would do, and I'm not saying it was great, but I liked what I was doing. I might have been the only one liked it, but if I had something I said, we got to make this change, and I had an idea how I wanted to change it, I would not just do that. I would go to the people, the frontliners, and sit down with them, 2 or 3 of them, sit down with them and say, okay, guys, here's the problem I'm seeing, and you guys have told me you got this problem, and this is my solution. But I got you here. Before I do it, do y'all have any solutions? Do you want to brainstorm it? But the deal is we've got to change it. So I want your input. But this is my answer. But if you got something better or got a better idea, I'm all ears. Because and that way I think it kind of, instead of pushing it down their throat, it kind of like they were helping me solve the problem. And then how some people, like, if you do that, I'm gonna, and they say, oh, no, and they're gonna prove that you're wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know.
They're gonna prove that you're wrong.
Right.
I'm not saying that stops that, but it lessens it, I think.
And here's the thing. First of all, that's why you're successful, because you recognize that early on. I think a good chunk of my business is educating the market about the need to do just that, to sit down and embrace your people, talk with them, get that buy-in. But let's take that to the next level. You do that, you get that information. Well, now you could record and transcribe that information. You can upload that into a generative AI, create a thought partner, and say, here's where I want to go. Here's the staff feedback. Here's my thought. Show me any, essentially do a SWOT analysis. What's my strengths? What's my weaknesses? What's my opportunity? Boom. You have just gone to a totally different level. You've been able to leverage the AI in the direction that you want to go. You've got the staff buy-in. You can bring that information back to them, get everybody excited in it. And that is a recipe for success, leveraging technology.
Yeah. And you're right. And I didn't have AI back then.
No.
But yeah, I will do that. In fact, I will do that this next year with Pilma too, because I want to make some changes there, and I've got some ideas, but I know that I don't know everything, and I think, and I've always said that the people on the front line, it's like being a general with the army. You're sitting on the hill, but really people that know what's going on are the frontliners on the trenches. They know what the hell is really going on in the war.
I'll tell you what, a great leadership book that I read, one of the best, is by Jim Mattis, former Secretary of Defense and former Marine Corps General, Call Sign Chaos. And he talks exactly about that. He would be in the trenches with the guy, and they would do anything for him. He's probably one of the most revered Marine Corps generals, since World War II. It's just exactly that.
And listen, and talking about leadership, you just wrote a book didn't y'all write a book on invested leadership?
Yeah. My partner Stacy and I wrote a book, Invested Leadership. Working.
Why did you write it, and what's it about, and what's the takeaways?
Yeah, so what we saw was an increasingly used to be culture was really understood as being super important, and now I think it's kind of waned a little bit. I think it's swung back the other way. It's actually not, we're hearing, oh, it's actually not that important. I'm still making a ton of money, and this, that, and the other. And what we have found is that you're going to be able to get the most out of your people when they feel cared for. Where people make that mistake is they think that they necessarily are the ones that have to do that caring. I was talking with a law firm yesterday. They said, well, we're not touchy-feely guys. Well, that's the great thing about our premise in our book, Invested Leadership. We don't say that you need to be the touchy-feely guys. We say you need to surround yourself with leadership that understands that need, that is naturally predisposed to deliver that care in whatever form that it takes. Nobody is saying that you need to coddle your employees. Nobody is saying that you can't even fire your employees. In fact, it's totally appropriate to terminate employees. And in fact, it's bad for morale if you don't terminate bad employees. We're not saying that. And we think this is going to be even more important with AI, not less. There's a myth in there that like we're going to replace humans with this AI and it's going to be better. I actually think you're going to have a smaller staff footprint with essentially people who are higher functioning technologists and understand how to leverage technology at every level of the law firm. And that EQ, your emotional intelligence, is going to be more important because those people are going to be so much more valuable that you're going to want to keep them. And those people are not going to be about a paycheck. They're going to be about vision, mission. They're going to want to understand that the organization cares about them, and then they in turn care and give their best fruits.
Yep, I agree. I've always said they won't care till they know how much you care. Really,
It's true. It's absolutely true.
I mean, it's well, good. Well, I'm in the middle of reading it. I hadn't finished. It's the end of the year, a lot of planning and stuff.
Sure.
I think everybody's doing that. So my reading's kind of been down. But I guess I need an AI agent to abstract.
You're getting a pretty good summary. I think it'll probably just tell you what I said.
But anyway, well, good deal. Good deal. Well, anything else that I'm glad you're going to be at the AI conference, and you're going to be speaking at the PILMA conference too. So we got a lot of other things that I'm going to wait and talk about next year. But I'm looking forward. We're going to hopefully work together more next year.
Yeah, I think 2026 is going to be a great, great year.
Yeah, man. So if people want to get up with you, because the other thing I failed to say is that Eric is I usually get people to say this, but I guess it's I know him so well. Eric was the COO of one of the biggest PI law firms, if not the biggest. I think it's the biggest in North Carolina, and retired.
It's the biggest in North Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah. And was my nemesis. I was always fighting them, for market share until I just gave up and quit. But him and he's got some partners, Stacy Monahan, and they do a lot of consulting, and this man knows what he's doing.
Well, you're very kind, Ken. People can reach out to me. The easiest way is to go to our website. It's mstratpartners.com. I'm a prolific emailer. Happy to talk with any PILMA member, any of your listeners. I love talking shop, as you guys can probably tell. I can talk about this all day long. I love it. One of the things we pride ourselves in is we don't ever sell. We just have a conversation and keep your own counsel about whether, we can help your law firm or not. But we sure do love this stuff and would be, happy to talk to any of your listeners.
I think something you bring to the table that, and there's a lot of consultants out there, and there've been some, but the thing that I like, and I'm not selling for you, but I just think it's important to know that you understand technology probably better than any other COO I've ever met that's worked in a PI law firm. And I think that always been important, but I think today forward, it's more important than it's ever been. So I think that's a great attribute, a great thing to have in your bag, because, I did consulting work, but I don't have it. I don't. And I'm first to admit it, and I'm okay with that. But the deal is, I think people are going to be needing this so that they can take advantage of all this technology that's out there that's just like changing, like you said, every 3-6 months, and you got to have somebody that's on top of it. And so, yeah, I appreciate you taking time today, and yeah.
Thank you, Ken. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, as you say, I think you said it very nicely, but I am a big old nerd. I have 30 technical patents related to that, so I do like this stuff, and happy to talk about it. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.